Hello, and welcome back to the My First Marathon podcast, where we interview runners in all stages of their running careers about their first marathon experiences to prove to you that anyone can run a marathon. My name is Taylor, and today's episode is a really good reminder that there's no single linear path into running. Maya grew up in dance. She's the daughter of a dance studio owner and spent most of her life moving until a major hip surgery at 17 completely changed the future she thought she was working towards. Years later, after college and grad school, running slowly found its way into her life through some friends who pushed her to sign up for a 5K. One race turned into 10Ks, then a half marathon, and eventually the decision to sign up for her first full marathon at Grandma's Marathon. In this episode, Maya shares what it looked like to train for her first marathon with the goal of enjoying the experience, not chasing a time. We talk about rebuilding an identity after injury, learning from tough long runs, making intentional decisions on race day, and why choosing what actually feels best for you can completely change how a marathon unfolds. Without further ado, let's jump into the episode. Please welcome Maya. Maya, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm excited to break down your two marathons that you ran last year and talk about kind of what's changed for you since then. But first, before we get started, just thank you for coming on the show. I'm excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I've been a fan of the show for a while, and I don't know, it feels kind of surreal to be here. So
I love it. Well, good. I'm excited to hear about how we got to running. I was just telling you that we've talked to a lot of dancers recently, and you have a dancing background. So let's start from the beginning. Where did kind of movement start for you? How did dance kind of get you into this world?
Yeah, I don't remember starting dance. My mom owns dance studios, and so I grew up the dance teacher's daughter. And I don't remember taking my first dance class. It's just always been part of my life. And I danced competitively all the way through high school, and then had an injury my senior year of high school. So my senior year of high school, when I was 17, I had the medical name for it is a periacetabular osteotomy. But what
Wow.
that means is I had a hip surgery that completely reshaped my pelvis. So they broke my pelvis and screwed it back together. And that was kind of a career ending injury for me in terms of
Yeah.
dancing competitively. But I still loved dancing, and dancing was still a huge part of my life. So after that, I still went to college and studied dance and still danced, but just in a different way. I guess it was kind of after college that I don't want to say stopped moving, because I still moved in other ways, and I marched drum corps also, and so I still got to do that and teach drum corps after I aged out. So between when I stopped dancing and when I picked up running, it was about an 8-year period where I didn't move much. I was just honestly really busy with school. And so I went to grad school, and after grad school, I moved home to Des Moines, where I lived here for about a year and I just needed something to do. I wasn't particularly happy, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I just needed something. And I had a group of friends at work who run the St. Patty's Day 5K here every year. And they asked me if I would do it with them. And I didn't train for it whatsoever, but I kind of had that mentality of like, I can run 3 miles. That's
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't run the 3 miles. I walked a lot of it,
Yeah.
but I had fun and I got a beer at the end of it. And that was kind of what got me back into it. After that 5K, there was a 10K that was happening later that spring that they roped me into. That was the Des Moines women's race, which has a 5K, 10K, and half. And so we did the 10K for that. And after the 10K, the same friends were like, how crazy would it be if we ran a half marathon? Like the
These are good friends.
Des Moines
These are
marathon,
good friends.
Des Moines like big marathon, which has the
Sure.
a 10K half full, happens in October every year. So that 10K was in May, and then we ran the half in October. And we took it party pace, and we had a blast. And that was when I kind of became the crazy friend and thought, okay, if we can do a half, I think I could do a full. I was on the fence about if I wanted to do the full. I was kind of considering doing the full next October, was what I was initially thinking. And I was like, okay, I had a lot of fun running this half, but I think if I have a year and I train for it and I, plan through everything, I think I could come back and do the full next year. And I also have a friend at work who does grandmas every year. And he's always hyping it up and talking about what an amazing race grandma's marathon is. And so I was considering doing the half for that one. I did not realize how fast that race sells out.
Oh yeah, it's a big one for sure.
Went and logged on. I think it was maybe a day and a half after,
Yeah,
because registration opens at like 7 p.m. And
yeah,
so, yeah, I went like a day and a half after and realized that the half was sold out, but I still really wanted to do it. And so I took that as my sign that that was supposed to be my first full. And that was when I registered for Grandma's Marathon. And I realized, okay, well, it's not next October, that's in June. But
yeah.
we'll figure it out.
And it was June to what? Like, what was it? How many months between when you signed up to when Grandma was supposed to take place?
Gosh, I don't remember when I signed up, but it was more than the like 20 weeks, more than the
Okay. So you had
training
some
block.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did do a 20-week training block, and I had the full time to kind of plan and, yeah, get ready for it, I think.
Very
But
cool.
it was still
Yeah.
stressful of like, oh, I wasn't
Of
planning on
course.
being my first full, and like suddenly this is going to be the first one. So
Yeah. No, that's stressful. And then your mind's going to like, okay, what are my first couple of steps that I take here? I guess before we start talking about marathon training, I'm curious, like your 5K experience going back, because you went 5K, 10K, like the traditional. You're just gonna work your way up to the full, which I love. But after that 5K, were you thinking like, would you have continued running? I guess if you didn't have this friend group, do you think? Did you get the bug that early on, or do you think you got it a little bit later?
I think I got it after the 10K.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think I needed them to get me from the 5K to the 10K, because I don't think I would have done that 10K without them. The Des Moines Women's Race 10K that May, that was the first time I had ever felt runner's high.
Cool.
We were probably 4.5 miles in. You had to get, I call them the garbage miles. And I always say like the first 5K is lying. Like you can't,
Yeah,
you can't trust the first 5K
so
of
true.
any run you go on. But we were about 4.5 miles in, and I felt runner's high for the first time. And I think that's what hooked me.
Very
And it
cool.
was
I love
fun.
that.
We had a blast.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love that you guys party paced it too. I think that's such a great way to sort of build up to these like bigger, scarier distances, is to just like have a blast and like do it with friends. And, like so that you're building this like core relationship with running that I think is so important once you get to marathon training. So I love that.
The race is in October, because there's three of us. We all dressed up as the Powerpuff Girls,
Oh,
which was
cute.
much fun.
Well, if you remember, anytime somebody mentions an outfit, please send me a photo and I'll throw it up on, on stories the week that your episode comes out. I love that. Very cool. And then what did training look like? Leading up to your marathon or deciding to run the marathon, what sort of training plans or what were you following to train for your first half marathon?
We weren't really following anything. My office that I work in has a pretty large running community, to be honest. And so we were kind of just talking to our coworkers that had done it before and taking their advice, and they just training kind of together. We were running a couple days a week together. I don't even remember necessarily what our longest run was together. It might have only been 8 or 9 miles, but we weren't following any sort of plan. We were kind of just talking to people and getting their advice and deciding we could do it. So we did.
Yeah. Let's go. I love it. And then, yeah, so I guess fast forwarding a little bit back to the full. So you decided to run it. What were your next couple of steps? Like, were you thinking training plan? Were you thinking, I need to figure this, how to fit this into my life? Like, what were the first couple of thoughts that went through your head when you signed up?
I was thinking training plan. I did do the classic Pinterest PDF training
Yeah.
plan, which honestly for me ended up working. I did not even necessarily follow it. I was thinking training plan. I was thinking fuel. I had kind of figured out fuel strategy for that half that I did. And then I was also thinking shoes, because the shoes that I had right before my half were not my friend. I was running in Hoka Bondi's because I had
Mm,
heard really good things about them. And I
yeah.
know a ton of people that absolutely love their Hokas, but they were just not for me. I felt like I was getting blisters every time I ran. So
Yeah.
about a month before the half, I actually went to a running store and got fit. And so that kind of changed everything for me too. But yeah, training plan, fuel, and shoes were really kind of top of my mind going into that training for the first full.
Love that. Cool. And I actually don't hate the Pinterest plans, honestly, for a first marathon. I think that there's like a million different ways that you can train, but the what I love about those paper plans is they're so simple. They don't overcomplicate. They're not pushing you to do speed or anything crazy like some of these apps that are out there that kind of push you to do when you're a beginner. So if you're gonna choose something that's not a coach, like a paper plan where it's just keeping it very simple is not the worst thing in the world. What do you remember about like those first couple of runs that were over distances that you were not comfortable with? So like the 14, 15, like you were going beyond what you had run before.
My first failed long run was the 14. and I couldn't do it after about mile 12. And I remember crying over it because I was thinking, oh my gosh, I signed up for this marathon and I can't even get back to the half that I just did a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, the first time I was really disheartened and just wasn't certain I was going to be able to do it. But then I went back out the next weekend, and I did do the 14. And I think that was the first time that I felt like, oh my gosh, maybe I can do this. And that felt really good. And then from there, kind of just building up all the way to I capped out at 20 miles.
Cool.
But it wasn't every week going longer. I had a few, I don't know what they call it, deload weeks.
Like deload weeks. Yeah.
And a few
Very
deload
cool.
weeks in between there. But yeah, capped out at 20 at the end of my training there.
Cool. Love it. I had a very similar experience with the 14-mile run. The first, like almost identical. The first time I ran 14 miles, like, it was a disaster. There was so many things that I don't think. And what time of year, I guess, before I tell my little story, like what time of year did you run? Were you training? And it was over the summer, right?
It was over the spring. Yeah. So it was, that 14 was probably April, I think.
Okay. So not too bad. Weather was probably like pretty decent training over the spring, I would think.
Yeah. It was
cool.
It was nice. Yeah. I had a few hot runs my last couple of weeks, which was brutal because it's the longest. But by hot runs, I mean it got into like the high 60s, maybe low 70s.
Oh, that's not too bad. Yeah. That's not too bad. I was going to say that, like, I think that there's so many things that you just don't know when you're training for your first marathon. And I remember the first time I failed my 14-mile run, it was like barely took any water. It was so hot. And I was like, man, I can't run a marathon because I didn't do this run that I like clearly didn't prepare very well for. So it's so funny how like week to week things can change and you learn things as you go.
Yeah.
And then like you said, like once you knock out that 14-mile run, just it changes everything. It's like you have this newfound confidence that you can do it. So it's like it's really important not to give up, I think, in the beginning. And obviously you experienced that training for your first marathon for sure.
Yes. Yeah. And I did a lot of halves in that training block. I just kept thinking, if I can sign up for a half and have the aid support for 13 miles of whatever my long run is that weekend, that's what I ended up doing. So between October and June, I ran 7 halves of races. I didn't race many of them. I was kind of taking them as like training run pace. But that was my mentality of, if I can just keep signing up for halves, and then I'll at least run the 13 miles with aid support, and then I don't have to plan for water, fuel, kind of those other things. And that was an expensive life hack, but it was a life hack that I took advantage of.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I'm sure it just helped so much with confidence too. Like, you knew that 13.1 distance so well going into training that I'm sure that was just like helpful for the confidence side of things as well.
Yeah, certainly. Yep. And fun. I mean, it had like a cheerleader for a lot of my training runs. So.
Totally. I love that. Very cool. And then you capped out at 20. Were there any other runs that stood out to you, either like in a positive or negative way through training? Those runs where you feel like, yes, that like solidified that I can run a marathon. I was building so much confidence, or opposite, like any other runs that went poorly where you were like, man, I need to really learn about this or change my mindset around this in some way.
The 18 was really tough for me because I think I took the 18. I had the mentality that I was going to take it what I thought would be my race pace. And I just started it out way too fast. And so that one was really hard for me because I felt like I was completely tanked at the end of it. And I could not fathom the idea of doing 8 more miles after that.
Yeah.
So the 18 was really tough, but the 20 was much better and kind of gained my confidence a lot more because I was obviously exhausted after the 20, but I thought in my head, okay, I can do another 10K. If I have to walk it, but I can. My feet are okay going another 10K after that. So and of course they're back-to-back weekends, but
that 20 mile either gives you a ton of confidence or it's a tough one to sort of end and go on into taper on. So I'm glad it went well. That's good. And then I forgot to ask, were your friends also training for this marathon, or was it just you that decided to sign up for this one?
I was the only one crazy enough to do it. Yeah, but they're incredible friends and very supportive, and
of course
they even came on like a few runs with me.
Very
They're
cool.
good cheerleaders. But they were
no, that's great.
They weren't gonna do it with me. I asked.
That's so funny. So yeah, when you were getting to those like 18, 17, 18, 20 mile runs where mileage was really getting up there, were those runs that you were running on your own, or did you have like friends that would come with you for some of those miles?
Yeah, I was running them completely on my own. We have a lake here in Des Moines that it's about a 4 mile loop around it. And so that's where I did a lot of my long runs. All of the long runs that my Pinterest PDF had me doing were in increments
Yeah.
of 2 miles. And so what I ended up doing was I would park my car at the lake. I would like back into a spot and I would kind of use my car as like an aid station. And then my first lap around, I would take a water bottle with me to the other 2 miles. And so I had water every 2 miles and then electrolytes and kind of some other things in my car at that 4 mile mark.
Oh, I love
Um,
that. Yeah.
and it worked out really well for me personally, and that's kind of where I did almost all of my long runs. It made it so that by the end of it there were definitely familiar faces if I was always running with the same people every
Yeah.
weekend, which was kind of fun. And I don't know any of their names, but recognize them enough that we could high five on the trail or cheer each
Oh,
other
that's
on.
fun.
Yeah, and I loved it. It worked out really well. And it was a place that I knew was busy enough that I felt safe running alone. I know that
Sure.
that's something that especially a lot of women experience, is not always feeling comfortable running alone, but that was somewhere that I did feel comfortable, and my friends and my family and everyone knew where I was. So
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to not have to worry about that.
That's great. I love that. And I love the aid station. That's fun. That's the easiest way to replicate race day, right? Like I think in
Yeah.
training sometimes we train with a vest or we train with things that we end up not even taking with us to race day. So it's cool that you were able to sort of almost replicate exactly what you were going to get in terms of experience on race day.
Yeah.
Um
I can't stand running with a vest. I own one. And yeah, it's not for me.
Yeah, some people love it, some people don't. I've kind of found a happy medium with it where I can't do it with the bladder in the back. Like the sloshing around is my absolute worst nightmare, but I can do it with the flasks in the front. But I know some people are just like, no, I like don't even don't
Yeah.
even bring that thing near me. Yeah. Well, cool. And then so when you were doing these runs where you were by yourself, I'm sure that they got tough at some points, obviously. What were some of the things that like you would say to yourself, or what kept you moving forward when the runs got really, really tough towards the end?
I think one of the things that I keep coming back to is the reason I started running and how just kind of unhappy I was in that chapter of my life, and the need to find something hard that I had control over. And so finding the hard and the things that I could dig deep down into that were my choice. And so I'm not enjoying this, but this is my choice to not enjoy this. I'm not having a good time, but I'm still choosing to do it because I have control over it. And so that was something that especially, and even for that whole chapter of my life and just how unhappy I was outside of running, finding the joy in the fact that like, I wasn't having a good time, but I was choosing to not have a good time, and I had control over that. And so that was kind of a lot of alone time thinking about that out on the trail.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I'll probably take us down a side tangent, but that's okay. We love side tangents. But like I would imagine being growing up a dancer and then having like a career-ending injury so early that like a sense of identity was something that you felt like you lost. I know I can relate to that from like losing out on playing college softball, things like that. Like you when you have your whole life like wrapped up in one thing and then it's gone, like you are constantly searching for something that scratches that same itch. I guess, like, did you have that experience, and what was that
Yeah,
experience like, if so?
absolutely. I was definitely somebody who had my entire identity wrapped up into dance, and my entire future for a long time I thought was only going to be dance. And so being 17 and having that future kind of taken away from me in a way, was really hard. And the idea of having to pivot and decide, okay, well, what comes next was tough for sure. And it's something that I still think about, but it's something that I wouldn't change now. I'm thankful for everything that did happen, as hard as it was. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely a tough experience for anyone, especially a 17-year-old girl.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And do you feel like running, like, did that like scratch your brain in that way? Like was that filling some, maybe not a void necessarily. It sounds like you were able to heal from some of that over time, but like, yeah, how did running like fill that for you, or how did that change things for you?
I think the approach that I've decided to take to running, is to not let it take up my whole identity the way that dance was.
Yeah.
I think that at some point, because I was so wrapped up into dance and I was a very competitive dancer, it almost became sometimes not as fun. And it became about the competition. It became about the career that was going to come out of it. And I am never going to make a career out of it. I'm never going to qualify for a major. I'm especially Boston. This is strictly for fun.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's one of the things that I've enjoyed about it is that I don't put pressure on myself to be fast, to be necessarily anything about it other than to enjoy the steps and the alone time and just make it fun.
I love that. That's great. Cool. Side tangent over. I had that question was in my brain from a few questions ago. So okay, cool. Well, let's talk about taper. So taper is one of those things that like the first time you go through it, you either love it or you hate it. How long was your taper and what kind of like thoughts were coming up for you while you were in your taper period?
I had a 2 week taper, and honestly, I enjoyed it because I had had that 20-mile, a little bit more reassuring run. I was able to kind of rely on that feeling and know,
Mm,
okay, I think I'm going to be able to do that. I think if my longest run had been that 18 and just how much I was doubting myself after the 18, I think I would have been much more anxious
sure.
throughout the entire taper. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the time to kind of just sit around and hang out and spend more time with my friends and those
Yeah.
last couple of weeks leading up to it for sure.
That's awesome. Cool. And then yeah, the couple of days leading up to race day, like what was going through your head? Were you nervous, excited? Like and then what were the logistics like too? I think you said that you would have to like travel into grandma's in some ways. So yeah, how were you feeling the couple of days leading up?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I was so nervous, but I was also so excited. This is a little bit of a side story, but I actually the day before I left for my marathon, I had my first date with my now boyfriend,
That's so
and
sweet.
our first date was my shakeout run.
Oh,
And
funny.
so he went on a 5K with me as a shakeout run, and it was so fun. It just made it so exciting because it made it real in the sense of, oh my gosh, this is my last run before the big run. But it was also my favorite run because I spent the whole time talking to somebody that I had an amazing time with. And so, yeah, it was, he's awesome. um, but we had that run, and then I packed up my bags the next day and left. I went with my parents. So I had my two biggest lifelong cheerleaders with me the entire time. But they picked me up on the way up to Duluth. And between Des Moines and Duluth, it's about a 5 hour drive.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay, yeah.
so it's not too long by any means, but it's not something that you want to do race morning.
Yeah.
Um, so we stayed in Two Harbors, which is where the start line is, since Grandma's is a point to point race. And so I got to sleep in a little bit more. I know the buses the morning of Grandma's start running super early because I was staying up in Two Harbors. I got those like extra 30 minutes of sleep, which was very nice.
That is very nice. Yeah, that's a huge life hack to try to stay towards the towards the start line for sure. And then yeah, what the day before did you get to go to like the expo and get your bib and all that exciting stuff? What was all that like?
Yes, I did get to go to the expo, and I got my bib. I got to look at my name on the pace car, all of that fun stuff. And I don't know if that's like really when it truly hit me, but that was when it started to hit me of like, oh my gosh, I am about to run my first marathon. And I was with my parents at the expo, and we were kind of looking at all of the merch, and my dad got me a sweatshirt. And I don't even remember necessarily exactly what he said, but he said something very sweet when he gave it to me. And it was just the way that it made me feel of just knowing that I had both my parents like full support and how excited they were to be there to cheer me on, knowing everything that I did go through to get there between the 8 years between surgery and everything. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was very excited and happy, and everything was good in that moment.
Yeah, that's a very comforting way to go into a marathon with your family supporting you, and you had just met this awesome person that like you did your shakeout. Like it sounds like the cards were all aligning for you, which is really a really awesome feeling to go into race day with. How were you feeling in the morning of race day? Still that like, oh my gosh, like I'm nervous feeling, or were you more excited? Yeah, how were you feeling on race morning?
I didn't sleep well the night
Hmm.
before. I
As
feel
you
like a
do.
lot of people, they don't sleep
Yeah,
well the night before their first marathon, or sometimes the night before any marathon.
yeah.
So I definitely kind of struggled with that. And then my alarm went off for the time that I was supposed to wake up, and they had delayed the race by 30 minutes
Mm,
because of thunderstorms.
mm,
And so I tried to lay back down for the extra 30 minutes, but I don't know if I even closed my eyes. But it was at least horizontal for an extra
yeah,
30
yeah, yeah,
before I finally got up. And I had done the whole, flat lay the night before. So I had everything ready to go. I just needed to put it on. And that morning, full of jitters for sure. Um, but I had a half a bagel with cream cheese, which was kind of my go-to before a long run, excuse me. And then some electrolytes, some Gatorade with breakfast.
cool. Love it. And then you didn't have to get on the bus or anything for the start line, so I'm sure getting to the start line was hopefully fairly easy. And yeah, what was the feelings like once you got to the start line? You were around all the people and kind of getting ready to start.
I The start line is crazy because they kind of just like drop you off in this big area, and they don't put you in corrals for what felt like a significant amount of time, but
Mm.
maybe I was just there much earlier than I needed to be for someone who was in the last wave.
Yeah, sure.
But I kind of just I sat on there's this like little hill, and I tried to stay off my feet for as long as possible. I had brought clothes that I had just like thrifted specifically for the race, and so I had sweatpants and a jacket on, and I just sat on this little hill, eating a honey stinger waffle and being alone in my thoughts about how crazy it is what I'm about to do. And honestly, did a lot of people
Yeah.
watching people warm up, watching people stretch, thinking to myself, should I be doing that?
Yeah.
But I stuck to my routine, and I ended up being glad that I did.
Yeah, good. Cool. Well, let's break down the race. I always say like maybe start with the first 13 because that's like your charted territory, but feel free to break down the highlights, the lowlights and everything that happened. Like what was your first marathon like?
I went into it not really with a plan. I decided I was going to run when I wanted to, walk when I wanted to, and I tried to stay within the 5 hour 30 minute pacer, like keeping her in my sights because I knew based on my training runs that would probably be about the pace that I would be able to keep up comfortably. I wanted to go into this, and my entire goal was to just a finish and b enjoy it enough that I would do another one.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I didn't want to kill myself like striving for any certain pace. I just wanted to go into it and have fun, and I did. And the first 13 miles, I ended up running with a few girls that I met kind of right there at the start line. And for all of us, it was our first marathon. And we all kind of had about the same time goal of being kind of around that 5 hour 30 minute mark. But there were two girls that I met that were friends already, and they had matching outfits on, and they looked so cute. And so I had to tell them how cute their outfits were. And then
Yeah.
we ended up running together for like the first 15 miles or
Oh
so,
wow. Yeah.
which was awesome. And kind of we talked the whole time because we kept it pretty conversational pace, for us at least. And yeah, it was fun to like meet somebody new and have conversations and learn about these people's lives. And I think that was why I didn't realize we had been running for so long until we hit mile 15. That was almost the first time I had looked up and realized how far we had come. And I kind of thought to myself, oh my gosh, we're 15 miles in. This has been easy so far. We're
Yeah.
15 miles in.
Yeah.
And of course, you have Lake Superior on your left the entire time, which is just beautiful and looks like an
Yeah.
ocean. And yeah, it's a beautiful course. Yeah, I spent the first 15 or so with those girls, and that was great.
That's great. Yeah, it's never. I mean, it's great if you run a marathon alone, if you run with people. But I think sometimes for your first marathon, like it can help really calm the nerves, especially like it sounds like you ran with other first marathoners too. So,
Yeah.
like having that common shared experience, I think is really special for a first marathon. Cool. Well, the first 15 sounded like they went really well. Were you
They
still with
did.
the pacer at that point at the 15-mile mark, or did you kind of like separated from them?
Yeah, we stayed within like sight line of the pacer. We were kind of ahead of her for a little while, behind her a little while, but generally within her area until about mile 20. I stayed with her.
Very cool.
So I stayed after mile 15. The girls that I was running with kind of broke off and went ahead a little bit. And I thought to myself for a second, I could go with them, but I think I'm going to have a better experience for myself if I hang back and stay a little bit slower because we still have 11 miles left.
Yeah, it's a good chunk of the race for sure. Yeah.
So I let them go ahead, and I stayed back a little bit and had a few more kind of side conversations with people, but didn't stay with anybody else for necessarily an extended period of time like that. I did have my friends and family and people sending me voice memos. And so for the first 15 miles, I wasn't really listening to those because I was having this awesome conversation, which meant that I got
Yeah.
to keep all of them in the reserves for the last 11, which was super nice. And everyone was so
Yeah.
kind. Yeah.
I'm sure that was really, really helpful timing too, to have all of those like after mile 15, I'm sure was great. Well, cool. Well, any sort of like hitting the wall at any point, any points after mile 15-ish to 20 that you felt like you really kind of hit the mental or physical wall?
Yeah, I would say mile 22 was where I hit the wall. Grandma's is a known for being a very flat course, except for what they call Lemon Drop Hill. And Lemon Drop Hill is, of course, at mile 22. So you've already covered so much time or so much distance before you get to it. And that was when I hit the wall. And I think the first time that I realized how hard it was. Um, and so I decided I was going to walk up the hill because there was no way I was going to run up it after everything that I had just done. And I did start crying. And I had met my parents. They knew where Lemon Drop Hill was. So I met them at the bottom of the hill. And I talked to them for a minute. They gave me some more gels and things to get me through the last of it. And I was talking to them, and then I turned and I looked up the hill and I thought, there's no way. Doing that and then running, another 4 miles after.
Right.
Yeah, that was definitely the wall for me. And then really that like 22 to 25 was just tough. I walked most of it, but I just kept telling myself like I can walk the rest of this race and make the cutoff, and like it will be fine. It is not the end of the world by any means, and I can walk the end of the race, and I can still be a marathoner at the end, and that's what matters.
Yeah.
And then mile 25 was when the crowd really picked up. So for the last mile and a quarter of that 25 to 26.2, I did find the energy in me to run again finally. And the crowd support was really what got me through to the finish line.
Yeah. Very cool. And then finish line feeling. What was it like crossing the finish line of your first marathon?
Oh, I was weeping. The feelings of everything, and just having I had only been running for about a little over a year at that point, and just the thinking about everything that had happened in that year and everything that I had overcome to really get there, and to find joy outside of running again was just so special to me. And then just seeing all of the people around, and just knowing that everyone there at the finish line was there to support somebody, just the collective effervescence of it all. And knowing that everyone here is like, there are two people here to support me. Everyone else is here to cheer somebody else on, but they're still cheering me on. And how sweet and special that is. And that you don't get that in a lot of other sports.
No, yeah.
Most other sports, you're cheering for one team. But running is just special in the sense that everyone is there to cheer on everyone. And I got emotional just thinking about that too as I was passing through the finish line.
I love that. It's so true. It's like we think it's a very individual sport compared to most sports, but it doesn't feel that way, especially when you're in a race, right? Like the running community is so special and the people that support the running community are also very special. And it's very, yeah, it can be overwhelming. I think the first time that you feel that on like a larger scale, like at a race like Grandma's, where you're like, wow, there's so many people here. I know you, well, I won't fast forward too much, but I know you've ran Chicago, but I felt that that was my first world major. And I certainly felt that at Chicago, where it's like, wow, there's 50,000 of us running here and double that in crowd support and the people that are
Yeah.
coming out here and taking the time out of their day to support complete strangers. Like it's very special. It's very overwhelming. I think very unique to the running community for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, good. Well, I love that. I love your mindset from the whole experience. Like I think that sometimes when we run our first marathons, like we talked about a little bit, like you're so naive to running when let alone training for a marathon. And I think it's really easy to get caught up in like the social media of everything and comparing yourself and trying to do what somebody else is telling you to do. But I love that in your story you were able to stay like very centered and very in tune with yourself and your needs and making sure that it was the best experience possible for you. I think that that's just so unique in a first marathon story. So I'm glad that it was such an amazing experience for you.
Yeah, thank you. I do feel really lucky when I look back on it all.
And then always love to ask for a piece of advice for our first timers that are maybe training for their first marathon right now, or maybe about to sign up for their first marathon, something like that. So if you could like wrap up any piece of advice from your marathon experience, what do you think you'd offer people like that?
I think the best decision that I made throughout the entire race was at that 15-mile mark, when I made the decision to hang back and continue running a pace that I knew I was going to have more fun at. And I think if any first time marathoners are out there getting ready for their race day, just going into it with that mindset of thinking what is going to be most enjoyable for me, or what is honestly in some cases going to keep me safest and be the best decision for my body long term. Those are things that I would recommend that anybody take with them. Make it
Yeah.
more fun. Like,
Yeah.
force yourself to make decisions that are going to be enjoyable. It is
Yes.
supposed to be
Yes.
fun, right?
I love that. And you said earlier too, like you it was important to you that you would want to run another marathon by the end of it. So I think like that mindset too, going into it of like, this is not a one and done. Like this is something I really enjoy and I know that I'm gonna want to do again. So like don't
Yeah.
tarnish the experience so that your longer term relationship with running is, impacted in that way also, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And also I had to force myself to want to run another marathon because I had already registered for Chicago.
Let's go. I love that. Oh, amazing. Cool. Well, I know we'll get a chance to touch on Chicago a little bit too. But before we move to that, let's knock out our fun questions and
Yeah.
talk about fuel and shoes. You've talked about fuel a little bit and how you were able to like you do aid stations and things like that, but I don't think we talked about what types of fuel that you used. I always give the disclaimer that fuel is your journey. It's your individual journey. So please try everything and anything when it comes to fuel. Same thing with shoes. Please go to your local running store and try anything and everything when it comes to shoes. But for you, what have you liked for fuel over time?
I tried a lot of different things, and I started out with Goose, and then I found the feed. And so I
Yes.
got like a variety pack of. They were giving some offer of like a handful of different brands in one thing, and through that I found the Science and Sport, the Cis
Mhm.
gels. And that ended up being my favorite. I'm very lucky in the sense that I've never tried a fuel that upset my stomach. Knock on wood. As far as like going down easy and not sticking to the roof of my mouth, I really liked the Cis gels, and that's what I ended up running. That's what I've ended up running both my marathons with.
Cool. I love it. And then you said that electrolytes you were using like Gatorade. Is that
Yeah.
right for
Yep.
electrolytes for the most part?
Yeah, Gatorade and Powerade and Propel. So kind of a plethora, but all within that family of pre-mixed electrolyte drink.
Cool. Love it. And then for shoes, what have you liked for shoes over time?
Yeah, I touched earlier on how I had been running in the Hokas, and then I got fit for shoes, and I am a Brooks Glycerin ride or die now. I run in the classic Brooks Glycerin for anything under a half, and then anything over that half distance, I have the Glycerin Maxes, and so that's what I
Cool.
ran my marathons in, is the Glycerin Max, and they just came out with the Glycerin Max 2, and it comes in pink. So I can't wait
Perfect.
for when it comes time to upgrade and get a new pair, because I will be getting the pink ones.
Love it. I love that all these brands are coming out with more fun colors. I think we were in a period of black and white shoes for a long time, and
Yeah.
I'm so glad that they're they're catching up with some colors. It's so fun. Very cool. Well, let's talk about Chicago. So you ended up running Chicago. Obviously, we won't break down like the whole experience, but what were some of the things that you took from your first marathon experience that you were able to like apply and like take into Chicago, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So grandma's was in June and then Chicago was in October. So I had about 4 months in between to train. I hesitate to admit this, but I did not train in between. The longest run that I did was 13 miles in that 4 months. And I think I went on maybe 8 total runs. So I was very busy and
Yeah.
enjoying my summer and everything. And I kind of had this mindset of like, I think I'm at a point now that I won't hurt myself if I,
Mm,
kind of back off and do this like very minimal, probably less than minimal running. And that did definitely show up on race day, the fact that I did not train in
sure.
between. But I still didn't hurt myself, and it ended up, all things considered, I was running Chicago just to have a good time. I wasn't
Yeah.
looking to PR. I wasn't looking to qualify for anything. I just wanted to enjoy the major. And I did it through fundraising. And
Cool.
I raised funds for Bandwidth Chicago, which provides music education to students who don't have music education in their public schools because their schools don't have funding for it. And that's something that I really care about. I think music education and the arts are really, really important for especially children. So the fundraising was a huge part of why I wanted to do it too.
I love that. That's great. And then from there, we know that even though maybe it wasn't the most like ideal training block for you, that you've signed up for several marathons this year and you have a big calendar. You want to talk about kind of what you have coming up next and what your plans are for this year?
Yes, and I am actually training. So I think I did find through Chicago that it's like important to actually train.
There's
You,
a lesson in every marathon, like good, bad, they like
yeah,
what the motto of this show is anyone can run a marathon. There's no one way to run a marathon. I think that even when we have like less than ideal training blocks, being able to say like, yes, that was less than ideal. I learned my lesson and this is what I'm doing next. Like that is just as important as having like 100% solid training blocks. You know what I mean?
certainly. And
Yeah.
between like training, like actually completely training for grandmas,
Yeah.
and then that 4 months of like not really like running, did one half, decided it was kind of whatever. And then it was after Chicago that I kind of thought to myself, I can actually do this better if I
Mm-hmm.
want to and if I try. So I registered for grandmas again, and I'm going back to Duluth. And this time I talked both of my parents and my now boyfriend, the shakeout run boyfriend,
Yeah.
into doing the 5K with me there. So
Fun.
I'm doing the grandma's challenge. I'm doing the 5K and the full, but I'll have a group with me for the 5K, which I'm really excited about. It's for my parents their first race ever, and I just think they'll have a blast. It'll be a good experience for all of
So
us to have
fun. I
together.
love that. Yeah.
Um, so really looking forward to that, and I am actually training. I have a time goal in mind, but kind of I know you've talked about ABC goals
Yeah.
before. So my to kind of just talk pace, I guess. As I said, I'll never qualify for anything. My PR from grandma's last year is 5 hours 36 minutes.
Yeah.
But my A goal is sub 5 hours. I think it would be incredible if I could make that happen. My B goal is to just PR, so anything faster than that 5:36, and then my C goal is to again just enjoy it enough to want to do another one.
That's great. I love
And
that.
finish. So that's what I'm training for right now, and I am actually training and running, and my long run this weekend will be 8 miles. I'm a Sunday long
Yeah,
run.
same.
So
Same.
so I'll
Yeah.
have 8 miles on the docket for tomorrow.
Yes.
But
Very cool. And all right, cool. And then that one's coming up, and then you've got I don't know if you want to like share the details of the other ones that you have coming up, but you've got a couple others that you're planning on training for as well. Do you have any like big goals for those ones, or are you just focusing on, one race at a time?
yeah, I have 3 marathons on the docket for 2026. I'm excited about all of them for different reasons. The only one I'm really racing and really putting, I don't want to say pressure on it because I'm not putting pressure on it. I still have the mentality of running is just for fun. I'm never going to make anything off of it. I just want to continue to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But the only one I'm racing this year necessarily is grandma's. And then in August, so a couple months later, I won the lottery and I'll be running Sydney, which I'm
Wow.
stoked about.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Congrats. That's so exciting.
I don't know. I always sign up for the lottery knowing that it's not going to happen. And then I was driving with my boyfriend in the car with me, and I saw the charge go through on my credit card. And I had to pull over because I was
Yeah, that's incredible. And that's such a fun one to get in through lottery for too.
Yeah, I'm stoked. So we're making a trip out of it. My boyfriend and I will be going to Australia for a little bit together for that one. Um, and then I'll be back in Des Moines in October. Those friends that I talked about that talked me into my first 5K, I've finally convinced them to do a full. And so
Let's go.
we're doing Des Moines together in October, and I'm just super. I think Des Moines will be the perfect place for us because we will have all the support of our friends and family and coworkers and just everyone that this is home for us. And so to be home and get to do this together and have this experience together, I'm thrilled and super excited for them and for
So
all of us.
fun. Yes, yes, no, and before we wrap up, I want to say just because you're a great embodiment, I think, of this of like you never know what your impact is going to be by taking a chance on yourself, right? Like you went into this taking a chance on you, saying like Maya wants to run a marathon. I wanted to prove to myself that I can do something hard, and now fast forward a few months later or less than a year later, you've got your parents running a 5K with you. Your boyfriend's flying to Australia to watch a marathon. You got all your friends running a marathon. Like you never know your impact, and I think it all starts with just taking that like first chance on you and just seeing what happens. So I think that's so cool that you've been able to like impact the people in your life as well.
Yeah, and I would hope that to impact them to also just enjoy it. To also
Yeah.
just know that this is for shigs, right? Like we're just having a good time.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Very cool. Well, thank you again for coming on and telling your marathon story. It was so great. Yeah, walking through everything and getting to hear how your first marathon went. I'm excited to see about all these big goals that you have this year and see you tackle them. And if anybody wants to follow along with you and see how everything goes, where can they find you?
Yeah, thank you. They can find me on all social media platforms at Maya Lorinda. If you want me to spell that out, that's MayaLorinda. And yeah, you
Perfect.
can find me anywhere and everywhere there. So
Awesome. Cool. Well, I'll link it in the show notes as well. But thank you again. This was so fun.
thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the My First Marathon podcast. For more stories, tips, and resources, head to myfirstmarathonpodcast.com. And if you want access to bonus episodes, exclusive resources, and extra support for your training, make sure you check out the community at myfirstmarathonpodcast.com/exclusives. You can also follow along with us on socials, Instagram and TikTok. That's at My First Marathon Pod. If you want to follow along with my personal journey, that's at tay.says. Whether you're training, recovering, or just thinking about signing up, you belong here. I'm so excited that you're here, and we'll see you on the next one.